Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov chess channel, and welcome back to the TCEC Season 25 Superfinal between the two top engines, Stockfish 16 and the Leela C Zero. So, as I'm recording this video, the result is +2 for Stockfish 16. Stockfish is now leading in this event, but still many rounds have to be played. Maybe Leela can also make something in some different openings, but so far Stockfish has a comfortable situation. If nothing changes, Stockfish is of course the winner of a new TCEC competition. So, I've sorted out really one of the most spectacular games from the super final. We have here Stockfish against Leela C Zero in a beautiful French defense Tarrasch variation. Pay good attention, put your seatbelts on, and enjoy again in a brutal, spectacular attack, which ended with an immortal, really spectacular king hunt all over the board. So a very beautiful gameplay by these two top engines. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. The fish opened with the move e4. Leela's response was e6, the French d4, d5, knight to d2, the Tarrasch variation. a6, knight to f3, knight to f6, e5, and knight to d7. We have reached now the last move that was prearranged by the organizers. So not from this point on, the engines have to calculate the position for themselves. So Stockfish continues with normal development. Bishop to d3. We have bishop to e7, c3. So you see, Stockfish has now this powerful dark square grip with his pawns, and he's of course trying to attack the king side. Black is of course immediately attacking the queen side with method c5, b5, and similar stuff. So we have c5 by Leela immediately. King side castling, knight to c6, rook to e1, and after kingside castling, Stockfish plays a very interesting choice, d takes c5, a line that has never been played so far in chess history, a beautiful theoretical novelty. In the database, I see only moves queen to e2 and knight to f1. So never really no one played, at least as I said. Maybe there are some Lee chess games. Let me check it out. Yeah, in Lee chess it has been played many times. So maybe Lee chess players know better than the top GMs and famous masters from the past. So as I said, d takes c5, very interesting choice by the fish, but still Stockfish keeps the e5 protected. The e5 is the most important pawn. If you lose it, then I think the attack by white is splashing. So that's why still, of course, it's a releasing pressure idea here by Stockfish. Stockfish is not allowing to have this tension in the center of the board around the square d4, as I said. But now Leela has, of course, chances to take the pawn back. And in the game, queen to c7 was played by Leela C Zero. I was curious, why didn't Leela play the move knight to c5? It seemed to me like a logical move. Knight to c5, you hit the bishop. Of course, white needs to retreat. And then I was really curious. I really left to analyze these lines that seemed to me like logical choices. Here I was curious, why didn't, for instance, black continue with the move d4? This wasn't, as I said, played in the game. Leela played queen to c7 first. So if you play something like d4, look what happens. We play knight takes d4, knight takes d4, c takes d4, queen to d4. Now we threaten checkmate. You have to play knight to d3, and after bishop to d3 and queen to d3, it seemed to me in the beginning that this could be a good continuation for black. Black is continuing the game with the bishop pair, but actually this bishop pair is not so powerful. The light square bishop is simply too paralyzed. It cannot get into the game very easily. So you see it's blocked out by its e6 pawn. It's also blocked by the b7 pawn, so it has to take many moves in order to get somehow the light square bishop in the game. Now look at this. White continues with knight to e4. You try, of course, somehow bishop to play bishop to d7, but now with queen to g4, you force the king to go to h8, and now we kick away the queen. The queen drops back. Still we kick away the queen, and now with bishop to g5, that's now the most important method here to recognize. We're trying to occupy the d6 weakness. We're trying to trade off the dark square bishops and then occupy the d6 weakness. That's now the strategic plan of white in this particular line. So when you face maybe some similar position, go for it. Simply trading off the key defender of the d6 square. You occupy the d6. You have a powerful octopus knight. And I think in these types of structures, in these types of positions, the knight would be much more powerful here than the light square bishop. So here in the game, after d takes c5, Leela played queen to c7. Didn't want to play this move knight to c5. Probably kept some kind of a chance here on the queen side. But you see also that this move queen to c7 is somehow connected to the f7 square. We'll talk about that later, but so far notice that the queen is covering so far the 7th rank, which is now very important for the continuation of the game. Stockfish continues with queen to e2. Of course, simply protects the main advantage that we have here, the space advantage here on e5. You don't want to lose this pawn. If you lose now in these types of structures this pawn, I think the game is over then for white. So here in the game, a5 by Leela. We have bishop to c2, a4, b3. Interesting choice by the fish. A takes b3, knight to b3. So far protecting the c5 pawn. We have knight takes c5, knight takes c5, and after bishop to c5, Stockfish had simply enough of this positional battle, positional struggle, and you can guess what happens. Stockfish plays the beautiful Greek gift tactic with bishop to h7. We have now the Trojan horse on the board. You have to accept it. Stockfish got challenged after the king to h7. Stockfish played now knight to g5, hitting the king. King drops back on g8, and now queen to h5, threatening checkmate on h7. Leela continues with rook to e8. And you see now the queen to c7 move is actually protecting now the f7 weakness. Usually, when the queen is not there, then there's immediately a checkmate sequence if the queen wouldn't be here. But now it's still defendable because Stockfish didn't even play here the move queen to h7. In the beginning, it seems so that queen to h7 is maybe winning the game, but look at this. Actually, black can defend this position in a wild, spectacular way. After queen to h7, this wasn't played in the game, but probably many of us are curious, why didn't white play this obvious, this normal move? After king to f8, now of course white delivers a check. We take out now the pawn. You of course try to escape. You don't want to escape here, then knight to f7 comes with a check. If you go here to king to d7, then there is a spectacular move here, knight to e4. After d takes e4, you're getting destroyed on the d file. So that's why you have to play bishop to e7 in order to control the f6 or the d6 square. Now we play bishop to g5, and after bishop to g5, knight to g5. Still there is a problem around the square f7, but now here after maybe something like queen to g5, we can get out of this mess after with the move queen to d8. If you play here knight to g5, then we can play here queen to d8. Anyway, you can maybe take out now this pawn, but we'll simply cover, and actually black should be even slightly better here. So you have to here take out with the queen, and now we get with queen to d8. You get the fork, okay, you maybe grab the rook, but the engine thinks that this is also playable for black, so actually this is defendable. So look at this. This could have been really, really crazy. Many, I think, would go into this queen to h7 line, but not Stockfish. After move rook to e8, Stockfish continues with a very, very interesting move, bishop to e3. After b6, Stockfish trades off even more pieces. But the main goal about this move, bishop to e3, is of course to include the rook further into the game. That's now the progressive plan of white. So if we have b takes e5, rook to e3, we have bishop to b7, and now rook from a to e1. First of all, protecting, as I said, our main strategic advantage, this advanced e5 pawn, and then it's of course time to include the rook into the attack. We have now the move d4, rook to g3, d takes c3. Stockfish continues now with the pressure on the h file. Leela has to now step back with king to f8, and now rook to c3. Stockfish is not rushing here. This is now really, really spectacular. This is crazy because still there's not so much that can be done here in this particular game. In the game, rook to a4 was played by Leela C Zero. Interesting choice because the main goal about this move is, of course, if you get challenged on the on the d file, for instance, we deliver check, then we go here, maybe we're trying queen to f7, then of course the rook on the d file could simply occupy the d file, and you couldn't escape then with the king. So that's why with the move rook to a4, Leela is trying to play rook to d4. So Stockfish continues now with the progressive h4, and it's very important sometimes when you play this Greek gift tactic to have this knight that's now on g5 fixed. When the knight is fixed, then you can of course play freely with your queen. You can of course be more aggressive with the queen. Let's see now what happens, for instance, if you play knight to e5. Knight to e5 is not an option in any lines because you get simply rook takes e5. After queen to e5, you get a checkmate. So the queen is a little bit overloaded to the defense of the square f7. So here after h4, that's why knight to d4, played by Leela C Zero. But Stockfish continues now with a beautiful rook to c5. This is the way to go. Again, with the same problem, you cannot take, of course, the rook. You get checkmated on the f7. So we have bishop to c6. Stockfish continues the pressure. Rook to d1. Stockfish is not rushing with his checks on h8. Stockfish has still time to make this happen. Stockfish is first paralyzing all of the pieces of blacks. The pieces cannot move, and now when the time is right, maybe there is a opportunity for the check. So if you play, for instance, rook to a2, obviously you get this one. Rook to d4, you cannot you lose the piece, and there's also the problem of the bishop on c6. So this is not working. After rook to d1, we have rook to d8 by Leela. Leela brings a new defender into the game. Stockfish plays now calm rook to d2. It's not allowing rook takes a2. Look how white pieces are playing in beautiful harmony. It's really how amazing how Stockfish is managing always to paralyze the pieces of its opponent. After move king to e8, now again a brilliant move here by the fish. Stockfish plays now the beautiful rook takes c6. Stockfish sacrifices the exchange. Stockfish is down a whole rook. Really wild stuff. After knight to c6, that's now the plan. We have knight to e6. You cannot pick up, of course, the piece, and now the queen and the rook is hanging. In the game, queen to b8 was played by Leela C Zero, and now again I think many of us would make a mistake with knight takes d8. After knight takes d8, still probably this is playable for white because of this weak king and also because of the pawn majority. We would have then 3 pawns up here, but Stockfish didn't rush again. After moving the queen to b8, Stockfish played now the beautiful knight to g7. Keeps simply the options, keeps the pieces on the board, took also another pawn, and slowly but surely Stockfish is in some lines even try maybe to reach the fully endgame stage. With now these two very unpleasant pawns on this side of the board, this could be maybe also dangerous. So in the game, king to e7, Stockfish delivers another check. We have king to e6, knight to g7. First we had a couple of perpetuals, but after king to e6, Stockfish makes now a huge decision, plays now a beautiful queen to h6. What should black do? You cannot pick up the knight. That's not working because of a queen to g5. You go here, then you get checkmated. Even if you go here to e4, then you get f3 checkmate. This is really crazy. So that's why black is forced to pick up now the pawn on e5. But now the king hunt is continuing here. Really crazy position. Rook to e2 by the fish. What should you do? If you play king to f5, again queen to g5 is a beautiful checkmate. After rook to e2, you have to play rook to e4. And now a very surprising move by the fish, knight to e3. Really wild stuff. So I was surprised really by this move. I thought maybe this Leela finally defended, but how are you going to play with your knight again in this game? But what should black do actually here? Even if you try in some lines to play, I don't know, rook to e3, rook takes queen to e3, we simply deliver a couple more checks. And as I said, even in some wild lines, maybe we can even, I think, go into the fully endgame stage, because now we would have 3 connected passers and also passer on the edge of the board, which is, in my opinion, unstoppable only for the knights. The position is simply too stretched all over the board. So even in this scenario, white should be much better. But that's why Leela didn't take out now the knight on e3. Tried, of course, to somehow bring more pieces into the game. Stockfish continues with king to h2. Now we have f6. If you try something, I don't know, rook from d to d4, if you try maybe to bring a new defender into the game, then again it gets very spectacular. Look at this, knight to g4. You have to play something, I don't know, king to d5, knight to f6. You go here, we play f4. So this attacking harmony is simply continuing here by white's pieces. You cannot get out of this mess. The king is really too busy in order to defend this loose rooks here in the center of the board. So that's why after king to h2, Leela tried f6, creating some kind of maybe escape route for the king. But now Stockfish plays a beautiful f3. We have now finally rook takes e3, but after rook takes e3, now we basically reach the position that we have talked about here. Leela has, of course, the knight, but Stockfish has now this 4 pawns. Like in the previous line, this should be completely winning here for white. King to c7, queen to f4. We have now queen to c4 hitting the knight. We have h5. Slowly but surely, Stockfish is pushing the pawn. We have queen to h7, g4. So the pawns are marching here on the king side. King to b1, rook to e2, queen to d1, king to g2, king to d8, and now after a couple of checks by the queen, again new check, and now queen to e3. Stockfish is regrouping, not allowing here also this unpleasant move, rook to d2. Here in the continuation, Leela tried rook to d3. Stockfish, there was another check, king to d7, rook to f2. Again, a beautiful sort of defensive move by the fish, keeps everything glued together, keeps everything compact. The king is perfectly fine in this small house that Stockfish built here by these 3 amazing pawns. So we have knight to e7. Stockfish simply pushed the pawn further, and the knight has always the problem to battle against this outside pass pawn or against this pass pawn on the edge of the board. We have knight to d5, another check by the fish, knight to e7, h7, and after move rook to d2, we have queen to c4. Leela tried, of course, to simplify the game by trading off the rooks, but no good checks are possible. Stockfish can even cover. If you take, then of course these 3 pawns and also this pawn here on the AFR are simply winning the game for white. So we have queen to d4, king to g2. No good checks are now possible here for black. King to e8, we have queen to b5, king to d8, and now a new check. You have to cover. Stockfish protects now here the pawn, and also gets also in some lines out of this mess by protecting also the pawn on f3 with some checks. Maybe this f3 square could be vulnerable, so that's why Stockfish keeps everything again glued together and compact. We have queen to e5. Stockfish plays now queen to f7 with the preparation, of course, to deliver check and then to promote to queen. So here that's why knight to e7 was played, but now comes the idea: queen to f8, king to d7. We have a promotion, and now after queen to e2, king to h3, we have a new check, king to h4, and now Leela found this defensive resource, knight to g6, getting the queen back. But after move king to g5, now comes really amazing move here, a really blunder by Leela. But when we think about it hard, in any lines this is winning for white. Probably the game would then last longer, because even if you play here knight to h8, we play queen to h8, you can pick up maybe this one, and in of course endgame theory and in our knowledge, we know that of course 2 pawns with the queen and of course with an endangered king like here on d7, this should be again completely winning for white. But as I said, probably the game would then be a struggle battle for maybe 20-30 more moves. But here after move queen to c1 that Leela C Zero played, obviously Stockfish grabbed now the piece. After a couple more moves here, Stockfish delivered a checkmate on d8. A little bit strange that Leela C Zero played this move queen to c1. Maybe this other option was much better, but in my opinion still it would be a clear win here by Stockfish 16. So great game by Stockfish 16. Immortal king hunt here. Really dangerous position from the beginning with this beautiful Greek gift tactic, not rushing with the move queen to h7, then again not rushing, and then I found this beautiful move with the knight to e3 when Stockfish covered. Let's go to this one of these moments when Stockfish played here this move, knight to e3. It seemed to me that Stockfish sort of stopped the attack, but actually this was still very dangerous with methods like knight to g4. Really amazing brutal attack here by Stockfish 16. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Brutal attack against the French defense. If you want to see more epic and spectacular games like this, check out our Common Chess Games Played by Computer series. Here's the link, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.